guys, welcome to Nine's Corner. I am so pumped, excited to get our tarot journey started. So I took some time and I tried to think back, like what was the thing that really, discouraged me from the tarot? What was it that as a beginner was my biggest challenge? And I can guarantee you my biggest challenge was actually doing it. I remember getting my first set of tarot cards. I was 19. And you'd start and you'd do a reading and you pull out the book and you'd be trying to do all the work, but then it was just seemed so overwhelming. I couldn't get a grasp on the meaning. So for the first 10 years it was an off and on thing depending on what was going on in my life. If life got kind of hectic and crazy, you'd go turn onto your tarots and try to figure out what's going on. But then I spent more time trying to look up the meanings into the books, and it just became discouraging. So I'm here to tell you, I'm going to demystify the tarots for you. The one thing that I can tell you is that you don't even realize it, but you already know the tarot. You already live the tarot. You're already experiencing the tarot. Your meaning and depths of meanings and interpretations are already existing within you. The power of the tarot is within the reader. What you bring to the table, your experience and your enlightenment or lack of enlightenment can certainly influence, the different readings. So, tarot cards are just that. They're cards. They have no more power than a book or a candle or, a cup or a feather. These are just objects. We the people, we're the ones that put the spirit and put the energies into them. So that's why when you start off with tarot and you're going to start doing readings and you're going to say, well, what kind of tarot cards should I get? I always say stick with the tried and true. Go to the Rider Waite. They're the ones that, they're about $20 at any bookstore, Amazon, any of that kind of thing. And they have pictures on all the 78 cards. And that's important because when you're starting out, you need to have those visual clues to help you build up your intuition. You'll understand all of this by the time we get through this course. Now, I wanted to start off and really get you to understand that you already understand the 78 cards. So let's break them down. We have our major arcana, the first 22 cards. Now, major arcana is secrets. That's the major secrets in life. Those are the huge life events that we all come to see, we all come to pass. The difference is what perspective do we bring to it, and what do we take away from it, and what do we learn from it, and how do we proceed from it? That's all individualized, but these major little experiences are all ones that on a human level we all experience. So the major are the big life events. Then we have the minors, which are the other 56 cards. They're broken down into your pentacles, wands, cups, and swords. These are all the little life events, the everyday life events that affect us, whether it be emotionally with the cups, whether it be intellectually with the swords, whether it be passionately with our wands, or whether it be about our physicality, whether it be our actual physical selves or the physical things, the material things we have in our world, which is represented by the pentacles. Those are the lesser cards. I don't like saying, they're not as important because they are, but they're sort of the supportive characters to the main story which occurs in the major arcanas. So, I'm going to break down the major arcana by telling you the Fool's Journey. This is a tried and true story that there's like hundreds of interpretations, and once you learn it, you'll do your own interpretation of it. But this is one of those tools that you can use that really kind of makes you go, oh, okay, I get the idea. This is, the structure that goes from birth to death. But it's not just the journey of the physical journey from birth to death. It's the mental journey. It's the emotional journey. It's all that's encompassing us as humans that we all experience. So there's so many levels to all the cards. But this is a good introductory way to kind of get involved and understand what you're going to be looking at in the next 22 cards, how they work in the big scheme of life, and then I will break down each card individually so you get a good grasp and understanding as to what this character or situation actually plays out in our real life, our spiritual life, our physical life, and what that means inside of a tarot reading. I pray that it is my intention that at the end of this, you'll be able to explore your own spirituality, be able to use this as a tool to guide you through all the steps that we need to get to a better place, to get to a better enlightenment, to get to that better human that we all want to be. And for those who want to do tarot readings, I think it's fantastic. This is a great springboard to start off, to try to get the bases down so that you too can start your own YouTube channel or help out family and friends, because we're going through a really difficult time. I mean, I'm sure every generation has said this, that these times, wow, we've never seen anything like it. But the truth is that we are on a journey as a spirit, having a physical manifestation of life. And we're all come into this world the same, and we all leave the world the same. So these tarot cards are a wonderful way of being able to focus in on the main event of life, what's really important and where you're to and where others may be. So to begin, we're going to start with the Fool's Journey. This is a good way to introduce you to the first 22 cards of the Major Arcana. Now, I'm not going to read from a book. I'm not going to regurgitate what you can already read. So this is based on all my experiences. This is based on all my books that I've read, from The Power of Myth by John Campbell to every little insert to everything I could find. So I took all my own really bad notes because I wanted to be able to sit down and really think about my interpretation of the Fool's Journey. And I'm going to share it with you in hopes that this will give you a good basis of where we're going to be going in the next 22 cards, and then we'll go in depth into the Fool. So, we start off with the Fool. The Fool is a 0. He doesn't belong anywhere in the deck. He can belong at the beginning or the end. He has no number. He is the hero or the heroine in our story. Once you hear the story of the Fool, you're going to realize that all your favorite stories, books, songs, they were all based on the process of the Major Arcana, the story of the Major Arcana. So let's start off. We start off with our Fool. The Fool is the heroine or the hero in our story. This is the character that we're going to follow and watch how they proceed through this journey we call life. The Fool opens up 21 doors to the understanding of our journey through life. Each door represents the familiar human experiences we all go through. This journey of being a spirit, having a human experience, starts with the birth of the Fool. The Fool enters the world unaware of life, the joys, the heartaches, the pains. So with his innocence, he goes on his journey, not knowing what's going to happen. Through the first door, we meet the Magician. The Magician makes the Fool aware of his potential, that within him he has all the gifts that he needs to go through life. He has all the 4 suits, the pentacles, the swords, the wands, and the cups. Accepting but not understanding what to do with all these gifts, the Fool opens the second door, and here he meets the High Priestess. The Fool is given the gift of intuition, that inner knowing that there's more to the world than what we can see with our 5 senses. Up until now, the Fool has been within. Now he's looking for guidance from outside. He opens up the next door, and he is greeted by the Empress and the Emperor. The Empress is the mother. The mother shows the Fool the warmth, love, and how to nurture. Here he learns of Mother Nature, who is, by extension, the outer world that nourishes him, from the sun to the water that you drink. In the Emperor, the Fool is taught the need for rules, authority, and the need for a firm foundation. Continuing his journey, he learns about the outer world, and he opens up the door to the Hierophant. Here, the Fool learns about education, religion, and tradition. This forms the base of his belief systems, along with what he's learned from the Emperor and Empress. The next door is the first real challenge that the Fool has. That's the Lovers. Here we have the Fool exploring himself, love of himself, and love of others. With that, it also makes you question the decisions that you make because they don't just affect you, but they affect the others in your life. Now the fool is starting to feel confident that he has a grasp on what he's supposed to do in this world. And he meets the chariot. Here he opens the door to willpower, knowing that he has the ability to move forward and get and manifest what he wants. Now that the fool has the willpower to do everything and anything that he wants, life sends some challenges and some complications. Here the fool is introduced to strength. Strength, you have to learn to have self-control, have to be able to control your impulses. Here you learn the value of being patient and tolerant. Here you learn the importance of strength of character rather than the strength of your physical fist. The fool is now prepared to understand the lessons behind the next door, the Wheel of Fortune. Here the fool learns the connection between destiny and fate and free will. He realizes that with every ending is the potential for a beautiful new beginning. Now, the fool reviews his actions and how they affected his life and the life of the relationships he's had. Time to take responsibility for your actions. Here, he opens the door to justice. The fool needs to decide to stay on the current course, or do you change everything based on what you've learned up till now? Now the fool has to take some time to figure out where he wants to go. He opens the door to the hangman. Here the fool is introduced to looking at the world from a totally new perspective. The fool contemplates whether or not the sacrifices he has made to this point were worth it. With all the new insight, the world appears to be upside down to him. He knows that some habits, thoughts, foundations need to be destroyed to make room for new understandings. Here he meets death. Death enters to transform your life. It may feel as though you're dying. Endings are never easy, but they are necessary. Clarity of what's important guides the fool to the next door of temperance. The fool now understands the need to balance all aspects of life, sometimes needing to give more, sometimes needing to take. But the fool now seeks harmony in all aspects of his life. This is when he opens the door to the devil. This occurs when, in life, there's a lack of hope or a fear of what's to come. There's an imbalance with the material world, and this creates the feeling to the fool that he's tied to it. But the ties are loose, a situation of your own creation that you can leave if you choose to. To create the change, to free him from temptation, the fool now opens the door and he's introduced to the tower. To have a new beginning, here the fool needs to allow for the collapse of everything that he has known. Still standing after watching everything he's known collapse around him, the fool looks to the sky. He sees the star. In the star he sees the hope and the renewal of a new day. Night falls and the moon comes out. Here the fool is reminded of his fears and troubles that could occur. Doubt is created by letting your imagination go. But the sun then shines on the moon after a long, hard night of imagination. The promise of a new day has begun. Here he opens the door to judgment. Here the fool is called to discover his purpose, to forgive and to let go of the past. With a greater understanding of the big picture, the fool is now ready to take on the world. The world card shows the fool his accomplishment, that what he set out to start has come to an end. It's neither good nor bad. It can be both. It means it's the story of your life. And the world is that final stage before you set off to your next new adventure. Now that you've heard the journey of the fool, doesn't most of it resonate with you? Weren't you first born as a human? I'm just kidding. But, even if you look at the fool, which is, we're going to go deep dive into the fool right now. But, the first thing I always think of when I think of the fool is not the birth of a child in the sense of ourselves. I think of a mother. Think how foolish or how much of a fool you'd have to be to take on the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual stress that comes with a child. Whether you be a mother or a father, it changes your whole life. Don't you have to kind of be a little bit foolish to be able to get through this life with all its challenges? The fool is not just the mere beginning of life. It's the beginning of all those little adventures we take. Some of them are internal, spiritual, personal, and some of them are on the external world, whether it's you're getting your license or going for a new job. It's you have to have a level of being able to say, hey, I'm going to go out there and try anyway, because somebody else could be saying, like, hold on, why are you looking? There's 100 more people more qualified than you. Why you? Don't you have to be a little bit foolish to be able to go forth in life? So let's have a look at the Fool. So to start this off, everybody learns in different ways, and different cues stick with people. So for my audio and visual people, I've got some examples. You can think of the donkey in Shrek. You can think of Michael in The Office, one of my favorites. Forrest Gump. And one of my personal favorite examples, Ed Norton from The Honeymooners. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check it out. And of course, we have songs to cover the Fool. Now, one of my songs that I really think is representing the Fool is Bobby McFerrin's song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. In this life you have some trouble, but when you worry you make it double. Don't worry, be happy. Now that to me is the great Fool. You have John Lennon and Yoko Ono, Just Like Starting Over, because, just like starting over and over. And for my country fans, maybe a little Tim McGraw, Live Like You Were Dying. Just check any of these out and you'll get what I mean when I say about the Fool. So looking at all these examples, you can see that they all have similarities. Childlike qualities, childlike wonder, spontaneous. These are your unconventional people. These are the people that live their lives the way they want without caring about what others think. The Fool, being neither male nor female, tends to have people either really love them or really hate them. But if you're working with one, believe me, take time to listen to them, because oftentimes, because they're unconventional, they could bring unconventional thoughts, feelings, solutions to problems at work or in your life. But when referring to the Fool as your friend, be careful, because sometimes they may be holding back, maybe a little secretive. But then they also are the type that are so spontaneous, they'll show up at your door without being invited. And because the Fool is starting off in a new beginning, a new journey, this could literally mean an actual physical journey where you're actually going on a trip, or you're going to travel, or you're going to go somewhere. But because the Fool is unconventional, you might not always end up where you're supposed to go. It could be a case of like you're going to end up getting there, but because it's unconventional, something might happen where you'll get there a different way. For example, say if somebody owed you $50 and they pay you back the $50, but they give you $50 in pennies. It's an unconventional way of paying you, but it's typical of how the Fool would do it. Get what I'm saying? So, when it comes to love, we've got a mixed bag. The Fool is an all or nothing kind of person. So, if you're single and you're meeting up with a Fool, the Fool is the type that they'll either be everything, but then they might hold back on commitment. So, this might be somebody that you can have a great, passionate experience with, but not necessarily a relationship. If you are married to the Fool, this is not all that's not always lost. If you're married to the Fool, it's a case of if it's working, they'll stick with you. If it's not working, they might just walk out of your life unexpectedly. So when it comes to physical, the Fool is great. That means that you're physically healthy, you're really doing well, and if you've been ill, you're going to get healthy. But the Fool also is full of tension. So you might have a little bit of issues with your nerves, a little bit like, you're always full of that, energy. When it comes to money, the Fool says, yes, you'll be getting a surprise little pocket of money, but it'll probably be because of something that you did in the past, and now you're going to be seeing the results of it. When it comes to career, chances are you are definitely thinking about wanting to change your career, wanting to change your job, maybe change house, change something. The Fool is always wanting to do something, change things up. And in time, you probably will. But this is also dependent on where the Fool shows up in your tarot reading. If it's in the past tense, then that means that there's something that you had begun, whether it be a relationship, a job, a career. It's in the past, and now you should be seeing the results of it. If you get it in the current, in the present, then that means that there's going to be an opportunity afforded to you that's going to start something new, whether that be a new job, a new career, a new relationship. That'll be based on the cards around it, but there's definitely the beginning of something new. We don't know if it's going to be good or bad. That's depending on the cards around as well. And in the future, the Fool would mean that there's something, you're going to be starting a new journey at some point. But then that has to make you realize that, well, what is going to no longer be in order for me to start this new journey? So what's this new journey about? So it opens up the doors to so many questions. So that's all based on how the cards are laid and how they interact with each other. Do not worry about that right now. Right now, we're just going to get into the meanings, and we'll get into the interactions later on down the road. Right now, we just need to know what they mean. Let's just look at what information can you gather from the card. So it's just my preference that you get your basic card. Do not get ones that have the words or meanings on it, because that just takes away from your intuitive ability. Because when you lay a card down, you should lay it face down. That's my preference. Because when I flip the card, I look to see where does my eye go to on the card. Because that will give me one little indication. It's not the only indication that you need to look at, but it's one that can give you an idea of how is this card. Is it going to be more on the positive side or on the negative side? For example, if you look at the card, guys, if I flip over the card and the first thing I notice is all this yellow, then I see the brightness of a new day, the brightness of a new start in something. So I see a positive thing happening. If I flip it over and the first thing I see is these snow-capped mountains, then I'm saying, hey, there's some emotional stuff that's happening that you haven't dealt with. It's kind of been frozen. That's going to come towards, this is going to be part of whatever this situation is. If I see the little flower in his hand, then I know he's innocently going into probably a relationship, but it doesn't have to be romantic. It could be a relationship within a business or within what have you, but it just means that he doesn't know everything. He's being a little bit naive about it. And his little package here, when I see this, I always think that this is our past lives, the experiences that we've learned over time that we bring into every new manifestation or every new life that we live. I always think of these as our little past life experiences, whether it be in this life or last life. So if I come across this, I'm going to be like, something's holding the Fool back, and it's something to do with these past. So, flipping the card over and being able to really see the picture and being able to draw conclusions from it is really important. And that's one of the things that I do when, using the card. Along with all the colors and symbols that you can use, you can also look at the direction of the Fool. The Fool is looking up. So what card is above the Fool? Is that what's on his mind? He's facing towards the right here. To me, he's facing the right. So is he involved with the card that's to the right? If it's upside down and you do reversals, what does that mean? I really feel that when you start off and you are beginning your journey into tarot, reversals are not necessary. All that you need to know is within each card upright. I find that when you do reversals, then people put meanings and intentions into it that are not meant to be. Or it gives them, it makes the cards either all good or all bad, and they're neither. All cards have their positive side and their negative side. So when it comes to reversals, for me, I generally look at it as this card, just this card, and then we'll look at the rest of the cards. If all the other cards are upside down, then you're dealing with some really dark energy. But if it's just one card down, then it's one aspect of your life that maybe you're not living in the best way. So there's all kinds of interpretations and ways to do it. But starting off, my recommendation would be stick with just learning the meaning of the card and figure out how to make it real in your own life. I mean, you've been born, so obviously you get what it means to be the Fool. Have you had times when you've done things and you don't know why? You can't explain it, but and you know, normally you would never do it, but you do it anyway. That's the spiritual message of the Fool. Listen, feel the fear and do it anyway. Let go and let God, because many before you and many after you will do it. Just like a mother, many mothers before and many mothers after. You will not be the first, you will not be the last. There is no beginning, no end to life. It's such a beautiful message when you get the Fool, because it is letting you know that the universe got your back. Go forth and do something amazing. Learn the lesson of life. So, that is our first introduction into tarot, and our next video we'll do a deep dive into meeting the High Priestess and the Magician, and we'll see based on time how many cards we'll do per video, because I don't want to make them too long, because you know it gets boring after a while. Well, not to me, but to you. Anyway, and as I'm sure most of my little kindred spirits out there, you know I would not be able to finish a video without bringing up our unity candle lit for each and every one of us. I thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to our next video. And until then, cheerio.